Engraving. A strange word now because it means so many different things. It can mean anything from pressing a button on a computer to rolling a heavy thing over something to actually physically sitting there for a month making something beautiful. Come and have a look. I've got 4 guns on the table, all with varying amounts of handiwork, and we're going to have a little look and a chat about which is the more worthy, maybe? I don't know, come see. So first off, how to tell the difference? Well, this is actually significantly harder than it would at first appear. Again, a bit like we said with checking last week, the real thing to do is to look for imperfections, because a laser engraved gun, like this, from I think it's a Bottega Giovanelli one, is pretty perfect. This is a slightly older gun, but you'll not really find any issues. The only thing you might find is a little bit of depth variation, but that will be across like a slant of a gun as opposed to one cut to the next. Whereas we pick up this Maruku. This Maruku is that's a bad example. Let's pick up this Grant, which is also a bad example because it's as near as to perfect as you could ever imagine. But if you follow each individual scroll, you will see tiny, not even imperfections, inconsistencies in scroll work. So one scroll might be a little bit larger, the other one will be a bit wider. Whereas this, which is designed pretty much on a computer, every scroll is identical and interlocking. So first things first, look for lack of consistencies when it comes to a lighter scroll pattern. Because these both have fairly similar scroll patterns, they've both got scroll, but one is done by hand 100 years ago and the other was done by a machine 10 years ago. Interesting-ish. Next, and this is to look at something like this Maruku, which is it's a hybrid. So what they do is that it's all knocked on and then cut out to give you the shading. So the pattern is put on the gun. This happens in numerous cases. Beretta do it, Maruku do it, Browning do it. Is that the gun is either rolled or lasered and then is finished by hand. On these examples, the best thing to look at really is the trigger guard. What you can see is the back end here, which is imprinted into the metalwork or put into the metalwork, and then you can see all of these flash cuts along the side. What you can tell on a hand engraved gun, and there are some laser or copied versions that can emulate this depressingly, you can see that these sort of chatter marks, and this is where on a gun like this, it's done with a pneumatic engraver, so it's just da-da-da-da, and you can see the skip marks. When something is truly hand engraved, you won't be able to see that. There'll be a very smooth cut. So actually what you're seeing here is low-ish quality or fast hand engraving. Does it count as hand if it's an air engraver? Yeah, I think it does actually. Lower quality hand engraving along the edges here to give this gun depth and texture. And this is quite important because both this, I think, is kind of the most noble thing you can buy now that's still affordable, is a gun that has depth put in by hand and yet a pattern that has been cut by a machine. So if you look at the side of the Maruk, what you have is on every turn you have a deep flashy cut, and every time you have a deep flashy cut. What this can mean, however, is if you get two, let's say you get 2 Guarinis next to each other, they're both identical. You get 2 Marukus next to each other, you might have a Friday afternoon, you might have the Master, you might have the Apprentice. You don't know who did it. And as such, you can get 2 Marukus, and one can look really nice, and the other can look like the Apprentice did it, I guess is the nicest way of putting it. It's not bad, but if you put them next to each other and were truly discerning, or if you are truly discerning, you will actually be able to see and tell the quality of the cuts. I know that that really doesn't make a difference to most people, but maybe a stream of people going in to buy their Marukus and going, can I see every Maruku you've got? I need to check the quality of the hand-finished engraving. Please don't be that guy. But needless to say, that can happen on a Beretta, a Browning, a Maruku, anything like that. When you get into the models that are hand-finished, hand-finishing meaning that certain cuts are picked out to add depth and quality, you will see variation in quality. Now, when it gets to hand engraving, pure hand engraving, and this is again, a tough example because it's old and good, you will get variations in quality as well. Now, here comes the real question. Is hand engraving more noble even if it is done in a naive fashion? I think was the best it was ever described to me. It was engraved naively. No? Yes? I don't know. That's the bottom line. Would you rather have a badly engraved, there's a question I'll pose to you. Would you rather have a badly engraved, hand engraved gun or a perfectly engraved, machine-made engraved gun? Some would say that laser engraving doesn't even count as engraving because anybody can do it. It doesn't require any skill. It does require some skill, I should put that. However, if you put me with a computer in the machine that does it, and we were together for about a month, I reckon by the end of that month I'd knock out something that was pretty representative of the standard that we come to expect from guns today. However, if you put me in a room with an engraving machine, or an engraver, or even just gravers and a chisel and a chasing hammer, there is no way that I could achieve this within a month. At all. So, anyway, I don't know what my answer would be. I think I would rather have the badly... There's no winner there. I'd rather not have engraving, you know, the bottom line. I'd rather have a plain gun than a badly hand-engraved gun or a machine. I don't know if I own a machine engraved gun. I can't comment. I'm just shut up and carry on talking about guns. So, hand engraving. There are multiple types of hand engraving and multiple styles, and more importantly, this becomes very much down to the artist who did it. And I say artist because nowadays, back when this was done, hand engraving wasn't a big deal because everybody had to do it. The quality changed between people, but nowadays you'll rarely pick up a hand engraved gun that isn't signed. And in fact, when you look at guns of quality at auction that were being made within the last 50 or 60 years, they will say a X engraved gun, because actually the engraver has as much to do with the finished product as anything, whereas back then a standard engraving was expected and it wasn't the engraver who cared who engraved it for the most part, to be fair. Whereas nowadays there is a much smaller pool of amazing artists. And to think I started by just saying let's look at the differences and how to tell the differences. We pretty much covered the entire thing. How to tell the differences is look for imperfections, look for the chasing marks, because you can emulate these flashes now on, you know, as you look at some of the 5-axis laser engraved stuff, and they actually manage to get these big angle cuts in with a laser engraver. You're looking then for graver marks, but then you're also looking for no graver marks for the best quality. The bottom line is a laser engraved gun will look very much like a very well hand engraved gun, but they are not one in the same. One is art, the other is pretty. And that is as much as I'll say about it. I've probably missed a huge amount of stuff out here, but I have a blinding headache and a young child at home, so forgive me. Guys, take care. I'll see you soon.